Hello again, everybody. Myron Medcalf, the Marion Key Book Club. Today I am joined by Joan Treppa, an author of Reclaiming Lives. I've got the ebook and the printed version of it. It's a book about a group of individuals who were one day normal people living normal lives, and the next day they were caught up in an investigation that dramatically affected all of their lives. Joan, the Monfils Six, I believe that's the name of the individuals. There's a paper mill where the body of Tom Monfield is located, and all of a sudden, these six individuals get implicated in a murder case. And the book does such a great job of, not just highlighting the challenges within that case, but I think for me, Joan, what stood out was this idea of you can literally be here one day with your family and friends, living your life, and the next day can be caught up in something that is just hard to get out of because of the flaws within our justice system.
Absolutely. Yes.
So what made you interested in this case, and what made you so passionate about fighting for justice of the men who were implicated in this murder?
Well, I was introduced to the case through my sister Claire, who lives in Green Bay and had been a longtime resident. She actually was friends with one of the six men before they had been convicted. And she recently came across some gentlemen who were doing research into the case. And the reason they were doing that research is because one of the men, Michael Piaskowski, had just been exonerated. Now, keep in mind that all the six men were tried in a joint trial, but it was only Mike Piaskowski who was able to bring his case to a higher court, a federal court. The others didn't have that opportunity, and so he was the only one exonerated. But in essence, all the evidence they had used was used against all of them, so they should have all benefited from, benefited and should have been exonerated themselves. So this information that I learned through Claire initially, I was very interested. And then when I learned, she introduced me to these gentlemen, and when I learned all of the disturbing details and what was being uncovered, it's like, good grief. I just felt like I immediately bonded with these men through an emotional experience that I felt was much similar to what they had experienced. So as a child, I had been bullied severely. I was teased, I was laughed at, people blamed me for things I didn't do. And I felt that these men had experienced that same thing, but in a very public, very humiliating way. And so this kind of gave me a new path to not only help them, but to heal from my past and that past trauma. And so I felt I can be that voice that I once longed for, because when I was bullied, there was no one to help me, but now I could turn around and I could do that. I could be that person for these men. And it was very helpful to them, and it was very healing for me.
Right. Well, it's amazing. I think the work that you took on, Joan Treppa, Reclaiming Lives is the name of the book. And, you read the book, it almost feels surreal, some elements of it.
Yeah.
Group of individuals who are working at a plant in Green Bay. Tom Monfils, the individual who is deceased. There had been concerns, personal things that he was dealing with, and concerns from those around him about his mental health. He's found with, some things that would suggest suicide may have been a possibility, yet there was this sort of shift to these six individuals, and was this a murder? I guess for you, when you researched this, how shocking was it that the justice system could just overtake a case like this and sweep up six individuals who were adamantly proclaiming their innocence in a case that the evidence seemed to suggest that there were other possible outcomes for what had happened to him.
Exactly. Exactly. It was very shocking because, we're all taught to believe in the justice system and that it gets it right all of the time. And it's very unsettling to learn that that's not the case and that people's lives are destroyed because of it. And, I've always been a very empathetic person, and I've cared about issues that even if they didn't affect me, I don't like to see other people suffering. So that compounds how shocking and how disturbing that is. And I just felt like I knew immediately what I needed to do. And I partnered with these guys who are doing this research to figure out what to do. And so my book kind of talks about all the crazy things we did and the way we met people. And I mean, it was an amazing journey. And, at every turn, it seemed like we were getting confirmation or affirmation that we were doing the right thing because we would connect with these people. And it just felt like I was helping these people. All they wanted was for someone to listen to them, to care about them, and to care about the hell that they had been living all their lives. And it just felt good to be able to help provide that for them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a book about the Montville 6 case, which, I believe it's mentioned at one of the reviews I read, or maybe even in the book, that if this hadn't happened around the time of the O.J. Simpson trial, maybe it would have gained maybe more national recognition. It's about these 6 individuals. It's about Tom Montville's, but it's obviously also about the flaws within our justice system. What did you learn about the justice system and the pitfalls within a justice system that can contribute to a situation like the one these 6 individuals encounter?
Well, what was most shocking to me is to learn that it's legal for police to lie to suspects. They can say, we have someone in the other room who has implicated you when they don't. They can say they have DNA evidence that puts you at the crime scene when they don't. They can say they have evidence or something you owned, or some kind of or eyewitness that has put you in this place, and they don't. And a lot of times, even if you have concrete evidence that you are not even there or in that city or even in that state in some cases, they don't care. They put that aside. And so we're all so vulnerable because just because we think we're innocent and just because we have concrete evidence to prove it, it doesn't mean that this is going to come out during a trial against you.
I was just talking to my daughter. We were watching some show, and the individual had confessed to a crime, and then they had recanted and said, that's not really what happened. And she said, well, that doesn't happen. People only confess to crimes that they've committed. I said, well, no, the false confession is a real thing. And I think one of the things this book highlights also is most of us don't know the law. Most of us don't know our rights. And there is, I think, an assumption oftentimes when you encounter police that people tend to assume, hey, if I'm innocent, I'm going to go home. There's no reason for me to be concerned, right, which sometimes puts them in a situation where they don't have a lawyer. They don't say the right things. And I think this case kind of highlights, just how quickly these things can move forward. What's the biggest thing you want people to take away from this book about these 6 individuals and your fight and really your bond with them as well? Because I think that has to be a part of the story too, Joan, is you committed your life to these 6 men, so kudos to you having a heart and compassion and shining a light when I'm sure those individuals felt like no one cared.
People need to open their eyes, even if they're not familiar with something or it doesn't affect them, or they have no emotional ties. They need to, I want my book to educate them on the fact that this can happen to anyone at any time with no warning, with no conceivable reason. It can happen. And so I want people to be educated on something that, until recently, it really hasn't been a hot topic in the news. We see very little about it. I know that's changing now because there've been a lot more exonerations, but I really want people to see what I saw. I wanted to paint that picture for them through my book that, yeah, I never knew about this. Why should I care? But it can happen to anyone. And so I just wanted to educate people. And I'm not, I wanted to do it in a very subdued way, in a very calm way. I didn't want to be in your face about it. I just wanted to share what I had learned and all the amazing people that taught me the pitfalls of wrongful conviction and what really can happen behind the scenes.
Joan, how do you respond to those individuals, because they are out there, who say baloney, right? Like these individuals, there is evidence against them. There may have been a motive. All these things, we think they're guilty, despite the evidence that might be contrary to that idea. How do you respond to those individuals who say, these guys should have paid for their crimes?
My first response is, until it happens to you, you do not understand how easily this can happen. And I also say to them, you cannot just believe everything you read in the media. The media is getting a lot of their information from, in this case, especially in a smaller town, getting their information from the very police department and prosecutor's office who perpetrated this entire scenario. And so you have to have a much broader way of learning about this information. Contact Your Innocence Project. They can tell you all kinds of things. You can learn a lot from them. And a lot of times on social media, whenever there's a story done about this case, I always go and look and see what the comments, and a lot of them, oh, these guys should rot in hell and they're union like murderers. And I don't care what the new evidence is. I still believe they're guilty. Well, I just calmly provide the facts and say, what about this? Did you know about this? And a lot of times they will get backed into a corner and they'll say something like, well, the people who knew him best, but you weren't there. The people who knew them best would know what to, know more about this. Well, then I'll say, well, the victim's own wife, showed up, told the police she believes her husband committed suicide. So there you have it. And then crickets.
Yeah.
And because of the bullying I received, I learned not to take it personally.
Really?
And I learned just kill them with the facts, just share the facts and just kill their argument with the facts.
Well, you certainly have a lot of information. You've quickly done your research. This book is one that everyone should read, Reclaiming Lives, Pursuing Justice for Six Innocent Men. Joan Treppa is the author. I have to say, before I let you go, I think sometimes about these wrongful convictions, and I'm happy when I see a case that's overturned and someone who's innocent is freed. But I also think about all the ones who haven't been freed in that same situation, and that certainly always is a humbling kind of thought. So, Joan, Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I rarely talk to someone who's been in prison, whether they were there, whether they should have been there or not. I've heard so many say, maybe I should be here. I did the crime, but I know so many other people in prison who are innocent. And I've heard that from exonerees also. So it is sad. We'll never know how many because many of the cases won't ever be looked at.
Yeah. No, but you've done the work to, again, put a spotlight on a case where 6 men claim that they were innocent from the beginning and needed a champion for their cause. She's Joan Treppa. I'm Myron Metcalf with the Mary and Key Book Club. Thank you for watching.